All righty, welcome back to Let's Vibe Podcast. This is episode 51, my recap of Electric Forest 2023. I know it's been over a month and like a few days since Electric Forest. We are just now getting to this, but I'm wearing my Electric Forest hoodie from this year. I wanted to do a little deep dive. I didn't do vlogs this year, and I hadn't done any videos about Electric Forest really because of all the things that was going on in my life. But I thought we'd do like a little sit down podcast recap, story time, you name it. We're going to go all in on my Electric Forest this year. This was my fourth Electric Forest, and it was by far one of the most special and just unique festival experiences like of my entire life. And like, it was just such a healing weekend. It was such a transformative weekend, and I just loved every little bit of it. And it just was such a wonderful weekend, and I'm so grateful for it. And I'm just going to dive into kind of all the things about the experience this year. There was a lot of firsts this year. I hosted a workshop at the Brainery. I did Good Life for the first time. And yeah, this was also my first single Electric Forest. So for those that don't know, I recently went through a breakup, but even then, you know, Electric Forest 2018, I was in a relationship. 2019, I was in that same relationship. We broke up, and then obviously it didn't happen 2020 or 2021, but I was in a new relationship. And so my ex and I went to Electric Forest last year for 2022, and then we broke up in May. And so I had a healing hot girl forest, and it was just the best weekend. So we're going to go over kind of the overall experience, camping experience. We're going to talk about my Brainery workshop, venue, music, vibes, all the things. I also have like improvements I'd like to see. And then of course the big question is, will I be returning back to Electric Forest in 2024? I also just realized I have some questions from my Electric Forest that I got from Instagram. I might just make that a separate YouTube video because I don't know where those questions are at right now. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive on in. So just to preface this with my mindset for going into Electric Forest this year, this was my fourth Electric Forest. We had secured Good Life bungalows. I was feeling really excited about this forest. I honestly had not given too much thought about the lineup. All I knew was that like Lane 8 was on it, Chris Lake was on it, and like that's really it. And I really was just in a space at the beginning of this year of just like figuring out stuff with my life, figuring out stuff with myself. And going into this forest, I was just looking forward to, of course, having a great weekend. And then, you know, in May, I ended up getting COVID, so I couldn't go to Seismic Dance event. And then I got broken up with, and that just set me on this path of healing, honestly. And so that set up this Electric Forest to really give myself the main intention of healing. Like, I honestly had never looked forward to forest more than after I got broken up with, because I'm like, just get me to forest because I know it's going to give me everything I need. Like, I just know it has those capabilities. Like, when you set your intentions with a festival like Electric Forest and you really just hone in and focus on that and become this like vessel, this open vessel to receive and expand and embody that intention, it just comes back to you like tenfold, you know? And that's why I held an intention setting workshop at Electric Forest, because I just see such value in doing that. And so my whole mindset really was going into Electric Forest to heal, because I was going through something where I was just, you know, battling who I am, battling what my life is going to look like, all of these things. Like, I'd been such a struggle for over a year basically. And the breakup just illuminated a lot of that. And I also was going into this Electric Forest knowing that I wasn't going to be creating content. I also was not going to be vlogging, and I was only going to do one meetup. So normally for Electric Forest, you know, we're doing the vlogs. Last year, I worked on the content team with Electric Forest, which was such an amazing opportunity. And I was going to meetup after meetup and hosting these meetups. And I just decided to like wipe the slate clean. I only wanted to do my intention setting workshop in GA and in Good Life. And then I only wanted to go to the Lunchbox meetup. I didn't want any other obligations on my plate. And I really still love that I did that. And I honestly think Electric Forest will just be that festival for me where I just get to go and not have that many obligations for a festival, because it was so needed. And, you know, my girl, BB Howell, she did the same thing. She talks about that in her recap and review that's on her YouTube channel. And it was just so needed for me to have some time with the place that I love so much, because I have been to Electric Forest, you know, 3 times before, and I have done coverage for it since 2018, that I just really felt like it was time for me to be one with the forest and have this experience that like you guys all get to have, essentially. Because well, to be honest, when you're creating content and you are vlogging and you're doing all these things, it does take you a little bit out of the present moment. You know, sometimes I'm super mindful about the clips I'm getting, but you're focused so much on capturing the moment versus being in the moment sometimes. And of course, there was a lot of cool things I wanted to like take clips of. Like I had a Twitch going on all weekend to want to grab a clip, but I'm really proud of the decision and the mindset I had going into this Electric Forest, because it transpired into the Electric Forest that I had. And let's talk about overall experience of Electric Forest this year. They made so many changes that I was just like, whoa, like a lot of festivals do not make changes year after year, and it gets really tough to keep going back to them when you don't see improvements or changes really being made. And I really commend Electric Forest, you know, making some changes and also hearing the people. Like some of these changes, I was like, okay, thank you. You know what I mean? One of them being Carousel Club. Carousel Club got completely turned. Before it was facing like east and west, and now it was facing north and south, which just allowed a better crowd flow, right? The hangar was gone, which I wasn't too upset about. And then they replaced it with Dream Emporium. They also set up, you know, the time travel kiosks for you to do the scavenger hunts around there. They moved around things in the forest, like the Luminaria area was in a different place. They added some things, different art installations. Like it was a really good Electric Forest in the sense of seeing some of these changes happen. Of course, one of the big changes that a lot of people weren't happy about were the umbrellas being gone and replaced with like sheets. And I think a lot of people had some questions of like, where are the umbrellas? What's going on here? And I think because of the storm that happened on Sunday, I think a lot of people didn't know that storm was coming, but I think the Electric Forest team knew it was coming. I think it was because of that personally. That was a really big thunderstorm that came through. I've been to Electric Forest in 2018 when there was a thunderstorm evacuation on the last day. And that wasn't even that bad, I feel like, compared to the one that happened this year. There was some slight rain in 2019, but, you know, I do think that Electric Forest does take the time to hear people's opinions, and they really value the attendee experience, that some changes were made. And I was overall really impressed with the overall experience this year. And I feel like I didn't hear too much feedback other than, you know, Tripoli maybe needing some more shade, which I can agree with. Tripoli does need shade. But it's very difficult to do, you know. But if you're having like stage takeovers where everyone's at Tripoli for the base rush takeover and there's just no shade really, you know, it gets really tough. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about like improvements I'd like to see, but overall experience, like I really had no complaints when I look at it as a whole. Like, and this could also be, you know, I was in Good Life and I got to have that experience about that too, which we're going to get into. But you know, from beginning to end of the weekend, just the music, the people, the art installations, all of that, it was just like so good to be back. And also some stage upgrades, which I'll talk about. But overall, I would say like this was a really good Electric Forest to go to. And I also feel like if this was your first one, like it's so different from Electric Forest 2018 to now that it's just like an elevated version of what we love about Forest. But even then, I still felt that like community, and I felt the love, and I felt the connection, and like all of these things that really make Forest what it is. And I also attended the Femme Identifying Circle, which I thought was super special. And that's just another way for more connection, right? I really try to put myself out there in terms of doing other things other than going to sets too, and just exploring more and just being with friends. And yeah, I would say the overall experience was pretty great. And we didn't really have any issues this year. I felt like our 2022 year was a little bit rough and at some points, but I feel like everything was really smooth for us. And then, the way that Forrest had everything set up was just chef's kiss. So I'll just lead off with that. I would say my overall impression of this year and experience of this year was really like a 10 out of 10. And, I will be talking about if I'm going to return, but going into this year, I had some reservations if I was going to return next year. And, after the first day, I was like, okay, maybe my mind is changing a little bit. So we'll get to that part for sure. Okay. And then as for Good Life, so let's talk about Good Life. So we were blessed with bungalow, and, I was making these plans with my ex and then with my friend Danita and Nick, and they invited us into the bungalow. And when we did a price comparison, I have it up here. For my part, split between 4 people, it was $959. And if you think about it, the GA ticket was like $600, right? Or something like that. And we were looking at Effortless, which was going to be like $750 a person. So we were thinking like, okay, an extra $200, like not bad. And we did a payment plan. So my payment to Danita was like $250, I think, a month for like 4 payments or something like that. And when you break it down like that, we were like, to have the bungalow where it's already set up, to have Good Life access, to have Good Life bathrooms, all of that stuff, we were like, you know what, this might be the move. And so we ended up securing the bungalow, and I was so grateful for that. And yeah, this was my first time doing Good Life, and a lot of people told me, you're never going to go back. Once you do Good Life, like, you don't go back. And I was like, okay, yeah, we'll see. But now that I'm sitting here, I'm like, yeah, I'm a Good Life girly now. Like, I don't think I could go back. And especially doing the bungalows, it was just so nice to do. And I'm going to do a YouTube video for you to see more footage and things like that of Good Life and everything, and the bungalows. But basically what it is, it's like a pre-set up tent, and it comes with like, you can like secure it to where you have like, the coverage of the tent, and then you can also like lift it and have like a mesh kind of covering of things. So then you open up the tent, and there was 4 cots in there, and they provide pillows with a pillowcase and a blanket, and then for each person. And then they had 1 outlet kind of like extension cord thing, and then they had this little like crate thing that could work as like a table, and then they gave you 1 lantern. And that was that for the cost of $959 a person, and then you get access to all the Good Life amenities. And honestly, driving up, you're waiting in line with the rest of the GA people. So you do have to wait in that line. But once you get past the GA line, it's pretty smooth sailing to get to Good Life. And then you drive up, you check in. They wouldn't allow us to take our car to the tent to unload. So we did have to unload our stuff. We took maybe 2 trips between all of us. And we had gotten some stuff from Walmart, like a cooler. We got box fans, things like that. One thing we didn't get was a canopy. We didn't bring a canopy, but we didn't know if it would be allowed, but we saw people with canopies, and we were like, okay, we know for next time. We definitely have a list going of things we would like to bring for next time, like an air mattress, canopy, stuff like that. But yeah, we got our tent all set up. We brought some tapestries, some lights. We got it cozy. And I really enjoyed the bungalows. It was just so nice to be able to go back. And I also brought a little like inflatable pad, so I wasn't just sleeping on the cot, and that made it pretty comfortable for me. But it was really convenient, honestly, not having to worry about setup and tear down and all of that. And where the bungalows are located at actually gave us like a couple more extra hours of sleep because the sun wasn't, peaking so brightly like it does on GA. So even that was super helpful. Like, I probably slept the most out of any Electric Forest ever, which was really great. And I know some other people, they get like tarps to go over it to like reflect the heat. But we just managed, we also had some trees nearby so we could hang out in the shade outside of our tent, which was really nice. But of course, one of like the big things that I was just so excited about with Good Life is the fact that I could shower at the end of the night. The showers are 24/7, bathrooms are 24/7, of course, but that was a game changer because normally I just baby wipe it and whatever, and then I shower whenever I can the next day. I really loved that I could shower whenever I want. That was like a game changer for me. And then, of course, in Good Life, they have like a little vendor village. I got my braids done. The people that did my braids were amazing, and the braids stayed in. They even touched up my braids on like the third or fourth day, which was really nice, just like the bottom part. The food vendors, there was good food options, a little coffee truck, things like that. There were certain things that, you know, I do think could have been a little bit improved experience wise, just for like the cleanliness of the bathrooms and showers. But like, other than that, I was really impressed, and it was just so easy. And they have 3 different entrances into the festival. One's into Sherwood Court, the other one's into the forest, and then the other one's over by Ranch Arena. And I thought that was really convenient depending on where we wanted to go in and everything. But I was really impressed with Good Life, and I loved it, and I thought it was a great experience. And honestly, I thought it was worth it just to pay that extra little money. You know what I mean? This Electric Forest was a little bit pricey, but I think it was really flights that got me because I ended up, I'll just tell you guys, the actual price was $2,590, which is pricey, right? And flights were $600 for me, which was a little bit much. So, you know, it was one of those things. Out of everything, you know, everything else was kind of like manageable. I don't drink. I did spend a lot of money on merch this year. Food was a little bit iffy for me because I was getting like 2 meals a day, right? But honestly, not that bad. And I'm only going to Electric Forest and Electric Zoo and Seismic. So like, I'm not going to as many festivals this year. But overall, like, I would do Good Life again, and I highly recommend it. I'll do even, you know, a bigger debrief on my YouTube channel for Good Life Bungalows and everything like that, like my review of it. But I just wanted to kind of preface that because I know a lot of people had questions about it, but I really enjoyed like the amenities, and I didn't even like touch everything with Good Life because I didn't do like the brunch or the happy hour. Like they do a lot. And then also there's Good Life section in the actual festival, which we only went into like maybe once, just because all our friends were in GA. So that was like a little bit of a caveat, but I did go in there once, and you know, you do get separate viewing areas and things like that at Sherwood Court and Ranch Arena, and I think Tripoli, which is really nice. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I definitely, like I said, I'm going to be a Good Life girly again to the day I die. I'm just kidding. But yeah, and I think I would do bungalows again. Like, I don't know if I would do anything else because I just really like that everything was set up during the storm. The tent was fine. We had a little bit of like some condensation, but other than that, like, we were good in that tent. So the next thing I want to talk about is my Brainery workshop. So a lot of people had questions as to how I got this workshop, what happened with it, blah, blah, blah. I just applied to it. I just have always had this feeling that I wanted to do a workshop. I wanted to like do some type of workshop at a festival and kind of bridge, you know, the work I do as a coach and do it at a festival. And why not do it at my favorite festival ever, like Electric Forest? So I saw that applications were open, and I'm like, let me just be a little delusional and like fill out this application, whatever. So I had put like, I want to do an intention setting workshop. I want to guide the Forest family through how to set intentions so they can have a really amazing and powerful weekend. And I just submitted it, and I was like, okay, let's just see what happens. And then I ended up finding out around the beginning of May that I had gotten it, and I was so just ecstatic and honored, and we were able to announce it later that month. And I was just I was nervous. I was looking forward to it. Of course, I've done virtual things as a coach, right? But I've never done an in-person kind of speaking event as a coach. I've mainly done, I've done public speaking before, and like I've been leading people and things like that, but like I've never, you know, done it. So leading up to it, I had an idea of what I wanted to do. I've like visualized it a lot of times. I ran through it a bunch of times. And then my friend Danita and we made these little affirmation cards and messages and things like that because I wanted to give something out. And I've even learned better for next time. Like maybe I should have like a business card or some stickers or like whatever. Like I didn't know what I was doing, but I definitely learned better for next time in terms of like promoting myself better. And so, yeah, we ended up having that on Thursday morning at 10:30 a.m. And then I also did it in Good Life as well. And so I showed up early just to be safe. You know, my transport brought me over from Good Life to the Brainery, and Danita and I started folding our little affirmations in the bowl. And there was already a lot of people before because there was like a grounding workshop beforehand where you ground into the forest and everything. And I was just looking out and I could see familiar faces. And then I also saw people I didn't know. And like, it got really like, at first I was like very nervous, but I just kept taking deep breaths and I was like, you wouldn't have the opportunity if you weren't ready. Like, this is it. Like, it's time to go. Like, it's time to put the aid coach persona on. And yeah, we ended up running through that workshop. I just talked a little bit about intention setting and then walked them through like a meditation / visualization of things, of what they want to call in for the weekend. And then I gave them some time to write things out. And what really kicked off this workshop was I had my friend Danita run around and hand the microphone to people, and they all just kind of shared what they wanted to get out of the weekend. And I think it just really helped people connect, and people were crying, people were laughing, smiling, like all these things. And yeah, it was just such a beautiful way to start the weekend. And it just really validated me in the sense of like, man, like, I'm doing what I need to be doing, you know, like I love the work that I'm doing and it means so much. And it just was so powerful for me to kind of hold the space and hold a container in such an intimate way at a place that I love so much, like Electric Forest. And yeah, I've gotten a lot of messages and DMs since then about people's weekends after that workshop. And it just makes me so happy that I could be a part of someone's like festival weekend. And of course, I've like provided tips for you guys and I've done all these things to help you have an amazing Electric Forest. But to know that I like helped in that way, right? I planted a seed of what you wanted to call in for your Electric Forest, and then it brought you whatever you wanted in that weekend. And you know, however it transpired for your weekend. And that just will always be very special to me. And I'm very grateful to have had that opportunity. And I definitely would love to do it again. I hope that I either get asked back or I just apply and do it again. And the crazy thing is, you know, those little affirmation cards that my friend Danita and I wrote out, we wrote out 300 of those messages and I just left them out. And I'm like, feel free to grab a little message for your weekend. And yeah, then I ended up, you know, meeting some of our Vibey family. They gave me gifts and hugs and all the things. But when I looked back, all 300 of those messages were gone. And I was just like, wow. All of them were gone. And, you know, I've heard some very like synchronicity things that have happened with one of my friends, Grant, and just even some other people there like, what's going on? Because that message was like really spot on, you know? So it was just really special to be able to host that and to be able to hold space for people. And yeah, it was just super amazing to have. And I think it was just such a perfect way to kick off the weekend. And then I ended up doing the same workshop at Good Life. I ended up being a little bit late just because my golf cart transport got messed up, but was able to run the same thing at Good Life. And yeah, got to connect with way more people and help them set intentions for the weekend. And it was just such a great way to start the weekend. Like, I'll just keep saying that, but that was just such a big moment for me, like this year in my life, in my festival career, like all of the above. And I just can't wait to do more and more things like that at festivals. That's definitely something I'm interested in doing. Now, I talked about the overall experience, but I want to move into like talking about the venue. So stages, production, security, things like that. I know with security, this was definitely a big focal point for the weekend because of everything that had happened at the Gorge the previous weekend. Personally, in Good Life, I felt like they were pretty thorough with things. I heard with GA it was kind of hit or miss, but again, that's so many people going through that. Whereas Good Life, it's not as many people, but they were pretty thorough with my bags. And I feel like I could sense there was a little bit more of like a police presence and things like that inside of the festival. So I'll just say that about that. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that I feel like every festival needs to be paying attention to, is like, how are we kind of holding the space for, you know, safety and everything like that of our attendees, because the world is crazy right now, you know? But that's kind of how I personally felt about it. As for the venue this year, like I said, a lot of really great changes were made. You know, different art installations were moved. Certain parts of the forest were changed. There was new activities and things. The whole Dream Emporium replacing the hangar was just like, that place was wild in there. Like, I don't know who came up with that, but I have questions. You know what I mean? Like, it was just this maze thing with a bunch of different rooms, and it was just very chaotic energy. Honestly, I could only go in there ever so often, and I couldn't be in there for too long because it was just like a lot to take in, you know? And there was just, the one thing I didn't like was kind of like the flow of it and how there was lines for certain things too. So some of the things I didn't get to experience in there just because I didn't feel like waiting in line, and also like just the capacity of it can get a little crammed at sometimes, which can be a little bit claustrophobic-y. But I really liked it. I thought it was just something different to do. And, you know, they still had the scavenger hunts going on throughout the forest, and you can still go to the time travel agency stand and stuff like that. I really liked Carousel Club being moved around. I loved the new design of Ranch Arena. Loved the new design of Tripoli. I know a lot of people were like, it's a ripoff of Lost Lands, but like, I don't know. I really liked it. I think a lot of people were thinking it was more like prehistoric, but then there was like tribal markings and stuff that didn't look prehistoric. Like it looked more like Mayan, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think there was some good improvements there. Of course, there was like some sound issues with Tripoli all weekend, but it kind of depended on the set where I could hear it or not. But I would just say, like, overall, I feel like there was just a lot of improvements, like production wise and stage wise. I didn't really mind the umbrella change, but I guess that's also because I've been to Electric Forest, so I have had my little umbrella moments. But the sheets at nighttime looked really cool because they did like lighting and like visuals over them. But again, I think this was just purely a change because of the storm that was going to come on Sunday. I think they were just protecting the umbrellas, you know. But overall, like, you guys know I love Electric Forest. It's home, right? And I feel like my favorite stage this year is still the observatory. I would have to say the observatory still just takes it for me, and I just love that stage so much, and got to see some really cool sets. We'll get into sets and everything like that, but overall, like, venue I thought was set up great. Even just like the little activations and stuff they had this year, the food is always great. I had Asian Sensation again, spicy pie, all the yummy things, and lots of lemonade. But yeah, I was really impressed just with like the layout of things, the improvements to things. It was all just really great. As for the music, do I still have my schedule saved? Oh my God, I do. Okay, cool. So I can do also like a little rundown of like our daily thing that we did. So what ended up happening? So day one, we went to the workshop. We had a great time. Then we went into the festival and kind of just like explored around. And we ended up going to Sid. That's where we kicked off our Electric Forest. That was kind of like a cool daytime house set. I ended up seeing Sid later in the day at the Honeycomb stage. And if you were there, you know that was a vibe. And that was really good energy. I enjoyed that set more. That was like around sunset time, I want to say. And then we ended up going to Messane, which was at the observatory. I really enjoyed Messane. Then we went to Channel Trace. I did really like Channel Trace. We ended up sitting in the grass and we're just like having a vibe. One thing that I noticed this year with being in Good Life is that because Good Life is close to Sherwood Court, I ended up like not going back to Tripoli a lot of the time because I just didn't feel like walking, and that was a common theme. And this also happened too when I was in GA, right? If I was in GA, I would be more prone to like stay around Tripoli area than go all the way to Sherwood Court. So that was definitely something that was interesting. But yeah, we went to Channel Trace, and then we ended up just walking around the forest that day, seeing new things. We did see Sid for a little bit. Then we did go to SG Lewis at Sherwood Court, and I'm going to be honest, I felt like that set didn't really hit in the way that I was hoping, but I still got to see him. I would love to see him again. It was just kind of like chill and like vibey. I don't know. I just expected a little bit more. Then I ended up going to Odessa, and I said that I was going to do Odessa, then Gorgon City. And again, I just didn't feel like walking all the way to Gorgon City just to walk back because of Good Life. So we went to Odessa at the Ranch Arena, and that was of course a really magical set. And we had like all our friends with us. Like I had BB, Garrett, I had Lester, Ryan, our friends Sav and Sean. Sav's like a really big Odessa fan, you know what I mean? So that was just really special. And so that was kind of our first night. I don't think we ended up going to any afters. I want to say we did go to some of the like RV sets on Wednesday night, but we didn't go to any on Thursday. I don't think. Yeah. After that, we were kind of like, yeah, let's turn it in. Because then we had Friday, and Friday was like, this was a very just such a fun day. We started out the day with the femme identifying circle, which was really special, where you got to connect with other women and femme identifying people. And it was led by the same Hannah Muse, who does like the yoga at Tripoli. And yeah, I got to meet a couple of followers, and we just got to like hold space and talk and connect with one another. I just really enjoyed that. I thought it was super cool to do. Then we went over to Zingara, who absolutely slayed Tripoli. I love Zingara, and that was such a really special set. Then we went to Azeka, and she had a little bit of like a time change happen. So we ended up seeing Azeka and Mian. Like something happened with one of the artists, like they couldn't make it, so they shifted the times a little bit. So I did get to see Azeka, then I got to see Mian, and Friday was just such a funny day. Like we just were all having a good time, and like we like explored for a while, because to be honest, like the whole day I was just waiting for lane 8. And it became a joke in our group. Like BB talked about this in her story time video, because it just became a joke that like I was like, we can't go to Tripoli, even though like lane 8's not for 4 hours. Like lane 8's in 4 hours. Like we can't go to Tripoli, you know? I just wanted to be in the forest and like goof around and have a good time. And like, that's what we did. And then we ended up like getting food, and then it was time for lane 8. And let me just say, you guys, like that was the most special lane 8 set ever. It was like he knew Aid is in the crowd. She's going through a heartbreak right now. I'm going to like give it my best go. You know what I mean? Like he knew. I'm just kidding. But we had all our friends with us. This was one of those sets where like everyone was all together. We were all in this vibe together. But like even where we were in the crowd, it was all lane 8 fans. Like everyone was just vibing. Everyone knew every song and all the things. And like Daniel just took us on a journey, and he only had a 90-minute set, and I did not want it to end. I'm like, can he just play the rest of the time? Please, like, please. But the visuals were great. Like we had such special moments with our friends. And then of course he played No Captain, which like I have a No Captain tattoo. I got this after my breakup in 2020. This is just a song that just means a lot to me. It's always meant a lot to me. And he played this like mashup with the Casablanca song called Crucible. And I just like, I lost it. And my friend Danita is like, we're making new memories to this song. And I'm like, yeah, we are. Like, it's just crazy. He also played Road, Dirty South remix. He played some other ones that just like, Don't Let Me Go. That one got me emotional a little bit. And yeah, it was just such a special set. We love lane 8 over here. You guys all know. Then we ended up walking past Illenium. I didn't see Illenium's full set because I was going to see him here in Austin, but I got to hear a little bit. He was definitely throwing down. And then we ended up going to Tripoli, and we saw Diesel and Ganja White Night. And I know, surprising, right? But a lot of people were making fun of Shaq for talking too much on the mic, and I'm just like, let the man have a good time. He was having a good time. You know what I mean? I really enjoyed Diesel's set, and I also really enjoyed Ganja White Night set. I had a great time. I wanted to experience, you know, some other things. Sometimes with house, it can just get a little bit predictable. You know what I mean? So I really enjoyed Diesel, and I really enjoyed Ganja White Night. I was very pleased with both of those. And then we did end up going to the afters, and I think Ganja White Night went back to back with someone else. I can't remember who, but we got really tired. So we ended up just going back to Good Life, which I forgot to mention. There is a shuttle that takes you back and forth between Good Life and GA. You really don't have to wait that long. You just kind of have to hope that you get on the bus if there's like a long line and stuff. But I felt like those shuttles were pretty efficient. Except when we went, we did have to wait like maybe 15 minutes, and then we were able to get on and everything. But if you're willing to wait, like it's not that bad. And if you decide that you're going to do the afters, like you might as well just go to the afters instead of going back to Good Life, then going to GA. Like if the festival's ending, you might as well just go to GA if you're going to do that, if you're coming from Good Life, rather than going back to Good Life and then getting ready for the afters and hopping on the shuttle. Like it just might be easier to do that, so that way you don't have to wait, because that's kind of what everyone's doing. So that was our Friday. Then Saturday, we started out with xoxo. I was really hyped to see him. We were kind of more in like a chill mood, but I would like to see him again. Also, he was daytime set. I feel like nighttime would be really cool for him. Then we went to the observatory and we planted ourselves at Phantoms. So we saw Phantoms. That was a really good set. They had a whole live aspect to it. And then that led into Casbo. And oh my goodness, you guys, I saw Casbo 2018 at Electric Forest at the observatory, and that was a very special set. But this set, my man's has grown up. First of all, Casbo is like a full grown man now. I feel like he was so much younger back then. And like here he is, just taller with a mustache, like all this. And like he has this whole live aspect. He had such good moments and edits and mashups. Like it was just one of those feel good sets. That was definitely one of my favorites of the weekend, along with Lane 8. Like if I have to pick, my top two is definitely those two. So that was really great. After that, we were like, okay, we need a break. We need to like sit. So we ended up going and getting Asian Sensation. And then we sat down and saw Zed's Dead at Ranch Arena. I really would have loved to be in the crowd for that, but I kind of needed to just sit and eat and just like chill for a second. But that Zed's Dead set was really special. And I'm like, I kind of wish I was in the crowd for that. But I really enjoyed that Zed's Dead set. That's definitely up there as like one of the top sets. And then we have Chris Lake. I'm not going to lie, you guys. That was probably one of the worst Chris Lake sets I've ever seen. Some people saw him for the first time and they really enjoyed that set. This was my 15th set and it just did nothing for me. It was one of the worst sets. I feel like he just didn't do anything with the energy. Like he kind of was like building for a while, but it didn't really go anywhere. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed by that Chris Lake set, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Not every set's going to be a banger. You know what I mean? So I think that night we ended up going back. Zed's Dead did a back-to-back with Ganja White night in the Good Life afters. And I forgot to mention that Good Life also does get afters. So I think Wednesday night they had It's Murph. Thursday night, I'm pretty sure it was Disco Lines, or that was Friday night. I can't remember. One of the two. And then Saturday they had Zed's Dead back-to-back Ganja White night, which was dope. So we ended up seeing that for a little bit, and then we ended up going back to bed. And then, of course, on Sunday, we had the whole thunderstorm thing. So they delayed, they had opened gates and then they evacuated. So we were just chilling, waiting till we could go back in. And then we got in and we planted ourselves at Sherwood Court for like, I think it was how many hours? 5 hours? Was that really 5 hours? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because we saw Daily Bread at 7 o'clock. 7 to 8 p.m. And then Apache did the live brass ensemble at 8:45. Then Maddion was at 10:45 and that finished at midnight. So yeah, we were at Sherwood Court for 5 hours. Some people were at Sherwood Court the rest of the day, but Daily Bread was dope. I was excited to see something else. And just, some little experimental bass was really cool. Some groovy experimental bass. I really enjoyed that set. Apache live brass ensemble was sick. The fact that he had just like a brass ensemble, I thought was really cool. And he did bass, he did house. That was a really fun set. Maddion was special because I finally got to see Good Faith live. And my friend Nick really enjoyed that set. So I'm glad he got to see that. And then I was really struggling. And after Maddion, I was really considering just like having that be that. And like, that's my Electric Forest bye. But we did make it to Above and Beyond, and I ended up just sitting in the grass, and like it ended up raining with like the lasers and everything, which was really great. And yeah, Above and Beyond was just a really special way to end the weekend. I definitely cried to Sun and Moon. I think I needed to let that cry out. I hadn't got emotional at all that weekend, but that got me, you know what I mean? So that was our weekend. Honestly, when I'm looking back, I honestly would just say like I really only had a top two set of Lane 8 and Casbo. Like nothing else really tops both of those sets. But every set I saw was really special, if that makes sense. Like everyone I saw was really special, so I can't really rank the rest of them. And I liked all of these sets for a reason, except for Chris Lake. But like Lane 8, Casbo, like those were my top two sets of the weekend. Okay, so that was everything about the music. Now let's get to the vibes. I kind of mentioned this for overall experience, but like Forest is just so special, and I really just always love coming back. The community is always just so amazing, and I always get to meet so many of you guys, which is always so special. And what always boggles my mind is like when I get gifts from you guys, they are always just so on point. And it's like, I know you guys follow me and you follow the content and everything like that, but they're always just so personalized. And that's what makes it really special for me. But even then, like I got to meet so many people and connect with so many people, and the energy I just felt like was really great. I felt like that about 2022. I felt like the community and the energy was really there because that was the first one back, but it's really nice when it's the second one back, right? We have one under our belt after the pandemic, and then this next one was just, yeah, the energy was there. Everyone was just so happy and like, yeah, very connected. And I always love coming back to Forest, and the community is like one of the big parts of that. Like everyone is just so great. And yeah, I feel like I sometimes see people kind of comment on, Forest is changing, blah, blah, blah. Like the crowd's not the same. No one's saying Carl or Happy Forest, but like I heard Carl, I heard Happy Forest. Like it really just depends. And it depends on the mindset you have too. So yeah, the vibes are always on point. The energy's there. There's always like synchronicities and special things and whatnot. So yeah, definitely very special. I also did do a Luminaria bag this year for the first time. I did have a friend pass earlier this year, my friend Rachel. So we were able to do a Luminaria bag for her. We did that on day 2, which was very special. So it was nice to get to bring her to Forest. So that was another like special little moment for Forest. Moving into improvements I'd like to see. So now talking about, everything that happened this past year, when I'm really thinking about improvements, the main thing that comes to mind is obviously shade at Tripoli. They used to have structures in the crowd. They had that in 2018 that provided like a little bit of shade, but some shade would be nice at Tripoli, I would have to say. Some other improvements, I would really like to see some non-alcoholic options available just because they only had water, Red Bull, and soda. And I feel like with the festival like Electric Forest, where, they even have a sober camp and things like that, I feel like there should be, and of course they have lemonade and smoothies, but I think maybe some non-alcoholic options would be really great, like the kin drinks or like other adaptogenic drinks or something like that. I would be really interested in seeing. I think it is surprising Electric Forest does have like a lot of alcoholic sponsors like White Claw and Beatbox, which we know I love Beatbox, but yeah, it'd be nice to see some non-alcoholic options there too, just for people that are, wanting to be sober and not wanting to drink, and people that are actually alcoholics or sober, in that way. So yeah, that's definitely something I'd be curious to see. As far as stages go, I liked all the improvements of it. I'm curious if Tripoli will stay the same, but I was pretty happy with that. I know that there was some sound issues, but that's pretty typical. That always happens at that stage. So you can always hope that, that would be improved upon. Another thing that I also feel like I was a little bit disappointed by with Good Life was the upkeep of the bathrooms. That was the only negative feedback I had. And also like where we had our showers, there was only one shower trailer, and I felt like we could have used another one just for line's sake and everything like that. I'm not saying that just because I'm in Good Life I shouldn't have to wait in a line, but I just think it would have been, nice to have. But there's always reasons for these things. So there's always a reason why, something is the way it is. So I try not to lean too much into it, but I was a little bit surprised about the upkeep of the bathrooms in Good Life because again, we're paying for, that experience, right? So that's kind of about it. I might be forgetting some things, but those are just a couple of things that come to mind. And of course I had questions that you guys submitted, but I don't remember where they're at. So I'll have to go back and look for those. But as we wrap up here, will I return to Electric Forest in 2024? And you guys can probably tell my answer is yes. Me and Danita, we were walking around the Forest Friday night after Lane 8 set, and we were just like, we can't miss this. Like, we have to go back. We'll always be going back. Like, what are we talking about? Going into it, we were feeling a little bit like maybe we can skip next year. Honestly, paying $600 for flights was a little bit like, was that worth it? You know what I mean? But for the experience that I had this year, it was just so special and so unique. And it was just everything I needed, that it's like, there was also so many improvements that I was like, what if they keep changing and upgrading things? What other new things are they going to bring and add, that it's very hard to miss. So I will be back as long as like things allow and whatnot, but I definitely have plans to go back. We would love to do Good Life and do bungalows again. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. But if you have any questions, definitely let me know. And like I said, I'm going to be doing a Good Life bungalow breakdown and everything. So if you want all the tea on all of that, definitely check out the video on my YouTube channel that'll get posted. But if you have any other questions or anything, definitely let me know. If you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to leave a review, leave a rating. This podcast is revamping back up, so I appreciate any and all support that I get. And you can follow Let's Vibe Podcast on Instagram and whatnot. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and vibing with me. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Stay vibey. Bye.